And the beach at Dakar, the emblematic finish line of the rally, would, thus itself, become the greatest reward. 1982, the Desert Foxes. In its first years, the spirit of this new rally was incarnated by two men, two brothers, Bernard and Claude Marot.
Si j'accroche la troisième, ça va. Pas de piège. Non, non, c'est bon. Non, fais gaffe. Il manquait plus qu'un camion. Fais gaffe, il t'a pas vu encore. Fais gaffe, fais gaffe, fais gaffe, fais gaffe. Quelle bande de cons. Attention. Attention, je sais pas si... Vas-y, c'est bon. C'est bon, c'est passé. Travers.
The Marot brothers were no strangers to adventure. They knew Africa quite well. 8 years before the first Dakar, they gained notoriety by going from Algiers to Cape Town in a R12 Gordini. They loved this mix of improvisation and competition. They were there to win.
Pour la beauté de la course, de toute manière, il va falloir qu'on se batte. Il n'y a pas le choix. Si on se bat pas, il y a 4010 en tête, et puis quoi, la course ne ressemble plus à rien, donc on va se bagarrer. On fera de la mécanique et on se bagarrera, quoi. Bon, on va laisser ça là.
The Marot brothers were seen as heroic handymen who entered with the man on the streets car, or at least that's what they wanted everyone to believe, that they were there to stick it to the big constructors. There was already the small privateer Davids versus the manufactured Goliaths.
Au départ, mais il est évident que la lutte est un petit peu inégale dans la mesure où ils ont déjà des véhicules relativement solides, et quand je dis relativement, je suis modeste, peuvent se permettre d'attaquer tous les jours et de refaire la voiture pour le soir.
With their R4 in 1980, the Marot brothers battled with the specialized production car developed for the army by Volkswagen. Patrick Zaniroli convinced a German engineer to enter the event. The Marot brothers were the only team capable of contesting their supremacy.
Ah, il a autant de mal que nous, hein. Fais gaffe qu'il ne se roule pas en travers devant toi et que tu ne trouves pas une souche.
Now for the latest in our series, looking back at the...
Proudly sponsored by Fujitsu Siemens Computers and Telcom Business.
And remember, the Marot brothers were also geniuses when it came to the mechanics.
Passe-lui un coup de radio quand même.
They concocted their R20 Turbo themselves, which was in fact a patchwork of several Renaults and had impeccable logistics. Their race was also fought at night. And during the day, the Desert Foxes, as they came to be known, mastered all the subtleties of the tracks.
Il est là. Vas-y. La vache. Dis donc dur. Vas-y. Il n'y a personne, c'est bon. Attention derrière là. Attention, c'est bon, t'as une marche. Attention là. Reviens, prends ton temps, c'est pas la peine de la bousiller. Tiens, c'est bon.
Welcomed by Thierry Sabine, the Marot brothers drove to victory on the beach of La Croze and in the streets of Dakar. Bernard and Claude certainly left an indelible imprint on the event, but 1982 would be their sole victory. In 1983, the Ténéré. There is an area on Earth that geographers have named the Desert of Deserts. It is the Ténéré, in the heart of the Sahara and Niger, and home to the Tuareg people. In 1983, Thierry Sabine made it part of his rally's itinerary for the first time, and no one would ever forget. January 12th, between Durkou and Agadez, after a 150-kilometer stage, the wind kicked up, before finally developing into a full-blown storm. Even under the clearest of skies, the Ténéré is crossed with the aid of markers planted every kilometre. But visibility deteriorated to just a few meters, while the sandstorm covered most of the desert. The competitors got lost, and just a few bikers found the Ténéré tree where the rest stop for man and machine was located. Worry began to become the biggest emotion. A few, however, did manage to continue on their route. Hubert Auriol finished second on the stage behind Marc Joanneau, creating one of the most memorable stories of the Dakar history. But the majority were scattered across this vast expanse of sand and rock. Some were already prepared to spend the night, rather than continue on the way. The organisers sent helicopters, but only when they could fly. In the Ténéré, dunes rise gradually on one side and descend abruptly on the other. In no circumstances whatsoever were the competitors to distance themselves from the markers, but they were no longer visible, and climbing them developed into the off-road version of Russian roulette. As day turned to night, no one knew the exact number of competitors that were lost in the desert. They still arrive one by one, even though the day stage has already finished. But Christine Caron, Bernadette Sassy, Gilles Deschamps and Philippe Vassart were still missing. The ending of the Dakar is still uncertain. 3 airplanes flew over the desert, but the sandstorm made the search very difficult. The Nigerian army even set off on reconnaissance. 72 hours had passed, no news, no trace. After walking for more than 60 kilometers in the desert heat, Gilles Deschamps and Philippe Vassart finally arrived in Agadez. Their distress signals simply hadn't worked. Bernadette Sassy and Christine Caron were found by the Tuaregs, and even to this day, this remains the most memorable moment of their lives. 1983, and the Ténéré Desert had forever made its way into the history of the event. 1986, the death of Sabine. At 7:30 p.m. on January 14, 1986, the Dakar lost its guide. The helicopter transporting Thierry Sabine crashed and disintegrated. The impact with the dune was 8 kilometers from the small Malian village of Gourma Rahous. Thierry Sabine was not alone.
Thierry Sabine, Jean-Paul Le Fur, le radio, François-Xavier Bagnoux, le pilote, Daniel Balavoine et Nathalie Audan du journal du dimanche. Et tous les 5 sont morts.
With the tragic news, everyone was shocked, confused, and beaten. The rally was decapitated. For the next 24 hours, the event was far from certain of continuing. The Dakar thus survived its creator, an extraordinary man who is remembered fondly by Jackie Ickx.
Quel charme, quel type, quoi. Il y a des gens comme ça, c'est un général de brigade, hein. C'est une espèce de Rommel, c'est un Montgomery, c'est des gens, on en sort un, on ne sait pas dire pourquoi, mais ils sont différents. On en sort un tous les 10 ans.
The following year, in 1987, the Dakar family paid tribute to this great man in the company of his father, who would assure the rally's future. His ashes were dispersed at the foot of this lost tree in the desert. There wasn't a sound, but there were plenty of tears.